For the first time in many years, Alabama's primary ballot has lots of Democratic names for statewide and congressional positions. In fact, there's nearly double the number of Democrats from 4 years ago. Many say this is a sign that the Democratic Party is trying to make a comeback in Alabama, which of course is currently controlled by the Republican Party. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Studham. We're back with more live coverage of tonight's primary elections with the results for some key local and statewide races. TV 24 has been watching these numbers as they come in from the polls, and we have some updates for you now. Now, this was the scene earlier this evening at Heroes American Grill off of Alabama Highway 21, just outside Jacksonville. A lot of people are there watching for the final numbers for such races as State Senate District 12, which is where we're going to start tonight. Weaver Mayor Wayne Willis has been running against longtime incumbent Senator Del Marsh of Anniston for this seat. Marsh is also the president pro tem of the Alabama Senate. Now, right now, with the unofficial results, so they're not quite complete yet, but they're unofficial results, it looks like Marsh may have won another term of office. Right now, leading 56% to Willis's 44%. But once again, we remind you that tonight, in fact, those numbers are changing even as we look at them. Marsh is now 53% to Willis's 47%. So there's a 1% change there. But still, Marsh is holding on and may again get another term of office in Montgomery. We'll have some more state races shortly, but right now let's take a look at some of the heated races right here in East Alabama. We're going to start with the Calhoun County Board of Education, where 13 Republicans are running for 7 places on the board. Now, you'll notice that 3 of the candidates, Jeff Wynn, Lisa Amerson, and Mike Almerode, are all in the lead with 10% each. We're looking for the top 7, remember. Toby Bird at 9%, Debbie Hess at 9%. And then we have several others at 8%. We'll have to be looking at the specific numbers there to see. This will come down probably to just maybe a couple of dozen votes to determine which of these candidates gets a position on the Calhoun County Board of Education. And now we turn our attention to the Calhoun County Commission primary. All 3 candidates in the District 1 seat of the commission are Democrats. James Montgomery Sr., David Reddick, and incumbent Fred Wilson facing off in the primaries. Now, right now, none of the candidates has over 50% of the vote, which means there could be a runoff in the Democratic primary here. If so, right now it appears it would be incumbent Fred Wilson, who's leading the pack with 48%, versus challenger David Reddick, who is at 40%. That appears to be what will be the runoff situation for the Democratic primary in about 6 weeks. Moving on to Calhoun County Commission District 2, all of these candidates are on the Republican ballot. Chad Brown and Danny Shears are running against the incumbent, Tim Hodges. And once again, the incumbent, Hodges, is in the lead at 46%. But again, if he does not achieve more than 50% of the vote, he will be in a runoff with the second place vote getter, which at this point appears to be Danny Shears. But remember, these are unofficial and incomplete totals at this time. In the District 3 race for Calhoun County Commission between 2 Republicans, former commissioner and recently retired circuit court clerk Eli Henderson and Scott and Martin competing for that seat that Henderson used to hold. And with these numbers right now, Martin appears to be with a slight 3% lead over Henderson. But that race has been going back and forth a couple of times, and we will have to wait and see if Martin can hold on to that. That, of course, one of them will emerge a victor this evening. Finally, for the District 4 seat on the Calhoun County Commission, also these are all Republicans, incumbent J.D. Hess is being challenged by Terry Howell and Calhoun County School Superintendent Joe Dyer. At this point, it appears that Hess may be heading for a runoff with Dyer, with Howell being in 3rd place. But again, it's very close between Howell and Dyer, just a 2% difference in these incomplete and unofficial totals. But as in the other races, the incumbent is in the lead in the 40% area. In the race for Calhoun County Coroner, it appears that the incumbent, Pat Brown, is going back for another term of office. He was being challenged by Tom Slick, but it looks like Pat Brown easily won re-election for that primary tonight. We have two judicial races tonight here in Calhoun County. For Calhoun County District Judge Place 1, incumbent Tom Wright, who was appointed to the job 2 years ago by former Governor Robert Bentley, is being challenged by Jacksonville attorney Marilyn Hudson. It appears that Wright will go right back into office with 71% of the vote to Hudson's 29%. And for place number 2, the incumbent Chris McIntyre was facing Calhoun County Assistant District Attorney Randy Muller. Both of those races are also in the Republican primary. It looks like Muller may have defeated the incumbent here. Muller with 61% of the vote and McIntyre with 39%. Over in Etowah County, all the eyes were on the race for sheriff. Both men are on the Republican ticket, and it appears that the challenger has pulled an upset. The incumbent Sheriff Todd Enrican has held that position for the past 11 years, but it looks like he received about 33% of the vote to Horton's 67%, and several media reports have already indicated that Enrican has gone ahead and conceded in that race, which he was apparently quite far behind. Now, Enrican held that position for 11 years, and he was first appointed when the former sheriff, James Hayde, passed away in 2007. The winner of that race, apparently, is the current Rainbow City police chief and a former sheriff's office employee. That's Jonathan Horton, apparently will be the new sheriff of Etowah County. Now on to the Etowah County Commission race, District 4. All 4 of these candidates are Republicans, only one incumbent, Commissioner Jeff Overstreet. And it looks like Overstreet, as his compatriots down here in Calhoun County, is the leading vote getter, but it looks like right now he'll be facing the runoff election with Barry Gargis. Lana Ballou at 20% and Tim F. Ramsey at 21% in that race. In the District 5 on the Etowah County Commission, both candidates are Democrats, and it looks like Jeffrey Washington may have won that race at 54% to his challenger, Curly Doremus. In the District 6 race, Republican incumbent Tim Choate has been defending his seat against Republican Craig Enzer Jr., and it appears that Choate has held on, although this is another of those very close elections tonight. In our unofficial vote totals here, Choate received 52% of the vote to Enzer's 48%. Also in Etowah County, Scott Hassel and Max Skelton are facing off for the Republican ticket in the probate judge's office that's being vacated by retiring Judge Bobby Junkins. The Democratic candidate, Jay Hedgepath, is not being challenged in the primary. And according to our unofficial totals, it looks like Hassel has won the Republican nomination for probate judge, 52% to Skelton's 48%. And just a reminder, all of tonight's numbers are preliminary. The final vote is not final until it is certified. And here's some key dates you need to remember. If there is a runoff in a particular election, that's going to be held on July 17th. A nice warm summer of campaigning for some of these candidates. By July 2nd, if you want to vote in that runoff, you'll have to have your voter registration all taken care of. July 12th is the last day you can ask for an absentee ballot. July 16th is the last day you can either take the absentee ballot in or postmark it for that. In those races where we have both Republicans and Democrats running for the same office, such as the governor's race here in Alabama, that will be settled on November the 6th. October 22nd is your registration deadline if you want to vote in that election. November 1st, the last day to ask for an application for the absentee ballot. And November 5th, the last day to hand deliver or postmark that absentee ballot. And now we continue our coverage of the 2018 primary election with a look at the governor's race, and it has been decided. The Democrat, Walt Maddox, will face up against the incumbent Republican Governor Kay Ivey. That battle will take place on November the 6th. We see here that Maddox, with 55% of the vote statewide, coasted to a fairly easy victory. And over on the Republican side, Kay Ivey received 1% more of the Republican vote, 56%. Her closest challenger was Tommy Battle, the mayor of Huntsville. So it'll be the mayor of Tuscaloosa versus the former lieutenant governor of Alabama, Kay Ivey, the current incumbent. That will be our election on November the 6th. Now, We are going to go through some more votes here for the Republican nomination for lieutenant governor. Looks like that's heading for a runoff in July, with Twinkle Andress Kavanaugh at 48% facing Will Ainsworth, who's coming in second at 38%. Rusty Glover looks like he will be the odd man out and not in the runoff election. So Kavanaugh versus Ainsworth in the Republican primary runoff for lieutenant governor. And another big statewide race, the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court. Tom Parker and Lynn Stewart, both Republicans, faced off for that position, and Parker has a 6-point lead at this point, 53% to 47%. Again, that's one of those that will be determined tonight. One of those people will walk away a victor for the Republican nomination for Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court. Checking back on a couple of our state Senate races for District 10, Republicans Mac Butler and Andrew Jones. Looks like Andrew Jones has a substantial lead at this point, 59% to 41% in our unofficial vote totals. And for State Senate District 12, which we've been talking about tonight, it looks like incumbent Del Marsh of Anniston, the State Senate President pro tem, will be going back to Montgomery for another 4-year term. And it looks like he has defeated the mayor of Weaver, Wayne Willis, former Anniston police officer, who received 47% of the Republican votes in that primary. Now for the race for the Attorney General's office. 2 Democrats are seeking that position, and it looks like Joseph Siegelman at 53% has defeated Chris Christie for the Democratic nomination. On the Republican side, the 3 people are challenging incumbent Steve Marshall, and they are the former Attorney General Troy King, who looks like he's coming in second. The incumbent, Steve Marshall, at 1 percentage point more, looks like he will be in a race with King. So it looks like the current Attorney General versus the former Attorney General in the Republican race in the primary on July 17th, in the runoff.